I always say people post some photos online and I said, you know what? Those are the people that should not get a respirator when they need one.
Yeah.
No, and I'm thinking I'm even going beyond that. And I said, like, if you can track them to somebody that died, they should be charged for a second-degree murder. This is where I'm going for, because people are so irresponsible. It's just insane, you know. That's. I'm going to stop here.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm thinking, Eli, for what you said before, it's just people don't care. Or a lot of people don't care, I should say it that way. A lot of people just don't care.
What is it that we don't care about?
Oh, a lot of things. The people that don't, people that don't wear masks, that congregate, go to weddings and all that bunch of.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, I was like, that's kind of a down note to enter the meeting on. Hey, everybody, people know. But you are right. It is kind of shocking. Hi, Wayne. Where are you calling us from? Looks like you're in Morocco.
We can't hear you.
Yes, I am calling you from Morocco.
Yeah, you're in front of a green screen.
No, actually, I'm not in front of a green screen.
You are a green screen.
I'm just using a virtual background. I decided, since I have thousands of digital photos, I might as well make use of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know that nobody asked me what's my screen is. I get like.
Well, parce que c'est la même chose tous les temps.
It's Israeli politics. It's against Bibi Netanyahu. He's a prime minister for 12 years. He's acting like a king. Gotta go.
Wait. What? You got issues with Bibi? What could possibly be wrong?
Isn't he under indictment for something at the moment?
So.
So.
Exactly. It's like this. He could run the country like he is a king. And he's being allowed to do so many things. And it's like, you know, he has to go. He got to go home. Just, you know, it's like a monarchy. It's not.
I don't know. I mean, because, you know, he hired Rudy Giuliani to run his campaign.
Oof. Well, on a lighter note, Hanukkah Sameach.
Oh, it started already? I'm not following. Okay.
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah.
I would have been here on time, but I was busy. We were exchanging Hanukkah gifts.
Okay.
In an incredibly self-interested move, I bought my husband a lot of really good cookware because he's a very good cook. So I figured if I got him a couple of new saute pans.
That was very generous of you.
There you go. There you go.
Actually, you know, this may not be Morocco. This may be the Alhambra.
I don't think so, because I've been to the Alhambra.
As have I, but the gentleman who I'm blocking in the background is working on a fountain. And as I recall, when I was there, they were working on that fountain, and the lion fountain actually had scaffolding around it.
Oh.
That just means I have to go back when I can to verify the location.
Got it.
How was Morocco? I've never been there, even though my mother is from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was, you know, I expected Morocco to be more desert-like, and I guess there are portions that are desert, but where I was, it was very green and lots of olive and cork trees.
Can somebody elevate Rosie? Because she's on the executive committee and she should be a panelist.
Right.
I think Ebenezer or maybe Eleazar has to do that.
Wayne, I think
already told them.
Morocco just annexed what was Western Sahara with the support of our distinguished president. So now Morocco is going to have more deserts. The Polisario would not be too happy about that, but you know, that's a different story.
No, I don't think so. But you know, the other interesting thing about Morocco, Isidro, the faces I saw in Morocco were very similar to the faces I see in Washington Heights.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, it just struck me. The other interesting thing is North Africa was not as hot as the south of Spain.
Oh, yeah, no, North
So you
Africa,
know,
super temperate.
Yeah, I mean,
Wayne,
yeah.
the people that traveled with, first of all, going back in history, 1492 January, Morocco was still part of Spain. I think they, in other words, the people that traveled with Christopher Columbus in those 3 ships, a lot of them were originally from Morocco. Some of the people, so there might be some.
Well, it's just that when you get to travel a bit and you see faces, you say, well, you know, these faces or these people are similar to these people. You start to get a sense of how people have traveled the world.
Yeah.
Did you go to Casablanca, Wayne?
We were in Casablanca only for lunch. I mean, Casablanca, you know, was not as interesting. We basically went to the 4 capital cities, Mequinez, Marrakesh, Rabat, Fez, and you know, the old towns are so fascinating. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is like an Italian hill town, but they're much denser. And I was told that people who live there get lost.
Wow.
I think
By far, both Morocco and Ghana have, I think, the best food in Western Africa.
Have you been to Tunisia? Because the food in Tunisia is pretty fine.
Yeah, well, I have not. The food in Morocco was pretty good. I love that slow cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I can do another trip to Morocco, but I still have to get to Tanzania and Zanzibar. So that's on the other side of Africa.
right. Enjoy the camaraderie. So we're gonna call the meeting to order if we have quorum.
Amen.
Excellent.
Excellent. So we can expect to wrap up by 8 o'clock, 8:30. You know, God willing. So I'm gonna just pretty much go by my report. It's gonna be very flimsy because we're gonna allow Mr. Jim Berlin to introduce us with the resolution that we had scheduled to discuss today. Basically, I have to say thanks, but he's not here. Steve Simon at the Cotton River ceremony that we had in that beautiful park on 164th and Edgecombe. I welcome you guys to drive by and look at it. It's just marvelous, the kind of work they did that, but I'm not gonna make that report. I should be Liz. I'm also gonna share with you guys a letter that we received from New York City Test and Trace Corps. Basically, the letter just states that they have 33 existing sites above 96th Street. 1, self-swab testing in Compton Eye Associates. You remember Jason Compton, our previous former Business Development Committee chair. And 2 pilot testings on George and GW High School and Manhattan Center for Math and Science are going to be the 2 pilot test centers that we'll be having until tomorrow, December 11th. So I'm going to share that letter with you guys by the end of tomorrow, hopefully. That's my report. Jim, if you want to take over from here and so we can get going on the resolution and explain it away.
Thank you, Eli. All of you should have gotten this today. And this is the resolution that we will pass right before we vote at the general meeting that will enable us to vote at the general meeting. But I had a thought to share with you. Now, what we did, as you know, and at my, well, it doesn't matter whose idea it was, but we created all of these accommodations for board members who are not good at this kind of thing. You know, so they can presumably vote by sending us a picture. And I got rid of the word ballot because it doesn't have to be an official ballot. It just has to say who they're voting for and they have to sign it. Because again, we're trying to make an accommodation. Now the complication there is I ultimately came to the conclusion that the very same people who won't be able to successfully vote using a voting platform, you know, or app or whatever, they won't be able to take a picture of their ballot either, and they won't be able to do any of these things. So it may be that these accommodations are actually superfluous, they don't help. So that's what I want you to ponder for a few minutes. Now we can keep them there anyway, because the way I think it would work is basically we would expect, and as people become more competent with this stuff, of course, the problem will go away, but a person will come back to us and say, I tried the voting app, I can't do it. And then the chair of the nominating committee, you know, would say, would you like to send us a picture or whatever? And then they would do that. Now the key, and this was in part of the main piece of my discussion with Adele Bartlett, who was very helpful, the Manhattan Borough President's Council. The key is the open meetings law, which requires that voting at a meeting take place at the meeting. And so that means, and not before the meeting and not after the meeting. So that means when we have the election, and this is exactly what we already did, but that's what the open meetings law demands. We will say, you've got 20 minutes to get your votes back to us. And any votes that come back during those 20 minutes will count. Any ones that don't, they won't count. And if people send us votes in some other manner, as long as we can, we can identify who it's from, presumably with their signature, and we can identify when it got to us, which is presumably what matters. So, and we would just keep that in mind. So the real question is, do we need these accommodations? And then the only other change I would make is where it now says, if we keep it in, it says, and by submitting a photograph. I want to change that to photographic image, because technically a fax is not a photograph. So your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't forget I take text. Liz
Catherine?
had her hand up first, and then
Oh, okay, fine. You moderate this. Good, thank you.
now Liz had her hand up first, and then I did.
I actually think that the entire thing is superfluous. So whatever wording you want to have in there, I don't care. I would like for us to spend as little time as possible discussing it.
I totally agree, except for the superfluous part.
So from what was sent today, I had a question in terms of like spelling out who it gets sent to, because I can imagine very easily of like, well, I voted, I sent it to Paola, versus no, it's supposed to be sent to the nominating chair or a specific committee. So I would want us to kind of discuss specifying that.
Can I just answer that? Because basically that's and you're absolutely right. That's detail that doesn't need to be in the bylaws, but basically when the voting occurs, and then we'll use the current chair, Nobles would say, if you want to vote by fax, you must use this number, but then we'd have to have somebody by the fax machine, or you must text it to this number, and that would be the number. And, we would make that. Now, the other piece, which is very important, is the only people who are entitled to vote are the people who are present at the meeting electronically at the moment the vote is open. So we would have to take attendance at that very moment, looking at and Nobles just joined us, so he can, well, he just texted me that he'll be happy to talk too. But the point is that we will, the committee will determine at the time the voting begins exactly who can vote. Those people will get the emails, and they will be the very same people who will get back to us if they can't vote. and anyone else simply cannot vote on that issue.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on?
One of the questions, I mean, we can keep the accommodation, it's harmless, it's just we have to pay attention. It may be, you know, because it's an accommodation, we don't really have to take it away, and I think it's a decent thing to do. But if you think it's totally superfluous, as opposed to the, and by the way, just to answer Liz, if you don't mind, it's not superfluous because we have to have a resolution, a change in the bylaws to allow remote voting. And by the way, the other thing is if we take out all the accommodations, the one accommodation which would remain would be by voice vote at the meeting. But normally we don't vote for, you know, we don't do our elections by voice vote because we don't want to hurt feelings. So, but that would be necessary if the person can't vote in any other manner. So
unless anyone has the questions, I'd like you to just present the resolution so we can vote on it.
Okay, this is the way we'll do it. We have the resolution in the way I voted with that one change, you know, from photograph to photographic image. No one asked that we remove the accommodations, which implies to me that you are happy with the accommodations. So I will now ask for a vote of the executive committee on presenting this resolution to amend the bylaws at the general meeting on Tuesday. All of those, in fact, someone else can do the vote counting. Yeah. But
Catherine, if you want to do the vote count.
That,
How would you like us to vote?
Aye.
Voice vote? Okay,
Yeah,
aye.
vote. Yeah,
Aye,
voice
Renee.
vote.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
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 I,
Anyone opposes?
I abstain.
Okay, we have one abstention. Okay.
Very
Jim,
good.
anything
Thank you
else?
very much. We can now vote on Tuesday as soon as we pass this. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Curtis, I think you wanted to say something. I see you unmute yourself. No? You good? Okay. So we're moving on. Thank you, Jim. A lot of hard work. Chris, not Chris, Nobles, just incredibly committed, and you know, the hard work he's putting into making sure that we go into this new reality, this new way of doing us administrative, and how our board has been taking having a lead on that. Nobles, I couldn't thank you enough. If you're not here, I want the minutes to reflect the work you've done. Thank you. So moving to district manager's report. Ebenezer, Floyd, and Short.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and member of the Executive Committee. Always is a pleasure being here, report as your district manager. I don't have that much to report. That you may recall. The day after the November general meeting, I went out on vacation. I just came back on this past Monday, the 7th, and start working on the 8th. I have been catching up with my emails and also following up a few items. And as you know, the District Service Cabinet meeting going to take place a week from today. Not too much to report. I got the items that some of you asked me to put it to the on my agenda for the District Service Cabinet meeting to follow up. I have been following up Wayne's issue on Riverside Drive with DOT. I called them yesterday, but I haven't received any response yet, and I have it on my agenda to discuss next week. We have been supporting also the nominating committee team, you know, giving the support for this new election way that we're going to have this year. This is the end of my report. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Does anyone have any issues that they would like Ebenezer to put in his agenda for the district cabinets meeting?
Hi, Ebenezer. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you, Ariel?
Good, good. So I just wanted to ask if perhaps when you go to the cabinet meeting, if you see a representative either from DHS or DSS, if we can request that someone gets essentially back in touch with the board, specifically with our committee, because we'd like to try and begin starting a conversation about the relationship between just the services they offer in the community and what's going to be happening here at the community board.
Okay, I will do so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ariel. Anyone else?
I do, if I may. Hello, everyone. Should I
Hello,
speak?
Faye.
Yes, hi. Yes, I just have a question, but it's unrelated and it's quickly. It's quick. All I wanted to say is that when it comes to send the announcement to the community about committee meetings, I would like to see, at least for my committee, that is not only that they wait for the last minute or just the Friday before, unlike other committee, but I would like to see like more continuity in sending those reports, because I noticed that our committees is usually sending only maybe twice, while other committees, are sending more than once. And I would like that they take that observation into consideration and would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Faye. Excellent
Okay,
point.
I will
I have
look
my
into
hand
that,
up.
Faye.
Thank you.
Mary?
Ebenezer, I wonder, I know we've raised this issue before, but on the corner, the southeast corner of 173rd and Broadway, by that gas station, that little area there,
Mhm.
completely floods. That whole, half of that roadway floods anytime it rains anything over a couple of drops. And it takes a week for it to dry up. And it's, very dangerous because you end up, if you have to cross that way.
You mean on the Fort Washington side, like on that little opening there, right? I think we lost her.
You said the southeast corner, no?
Sorry?
Southeast.
Southeast.
Southeast. Yeah, they're gonna
Southeast.
be by Wadsworth. Well,
Yes, it is Wadsworth.
It's between
one-
Broadway and Wadsworth,
yeah, but
but
the
it's
big discount store,
it's Broadway. It's Broadway and 173rd
by the discount store there.
by the gas station and the little discount store that they have with it.
Yes, okay. I will look into that. I have a few locations in the district that is a flood location, and I have been working with DOT. I'm gonna look into that and bring it to the
Yeah,
list.
that's been for a long time. I don't know if it's DOT or whoever, but it's a dangerous area if you have to cross the street.
I agree.
on that
And
same
also in
side.
the winter, when the temperature
Yeah,
goes down, you have a lot of ice there. Yeah,
exactly.
we're gonna follow up, yes.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Ebenezer, to summarize it, you have two issues that you have to bring into the district cabinets meeting, which is Ariel's and Mary's.
Yes.
And then we'll deal with Faye's issue. I think I see Liz with her hands raised. Liz.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. I see that quite unusually we have 0 attendees. Oh no, wait, we have 2 attendees, both of whom are board members. We have 0 attendees from the public, which I don't know, maybe everybody's busy on a Thursday night, but it's unusual. So I'm just wondering, did a notice go out about this meeting with the link?
The same notices that historically usually went out on the timely way. But we do have an issue that was brought up by the Manhattan Borough President's Office. We got an email from Noel Hidalgo a few hours ago saying that our meetings have a very security vulnerable. Because what happened is that in the beginning we were screening who was coming into our meetings. Now we're just sending out links. People are joining in and we don't know who they are. Like in the case where you told me about the anonymous person that was blasting us away. So we're gonna have to change our protocol again to make sure that our security is no longer breached. Remember that we are also using MBPO's Zoom account. So when they come through us, they're really going through their server.
Got it.
So that's what we need to really be more mindful of, who's coming into our meetings. And
If I can interject, because this is security, it turns out the WebEx platform is infinitely less secure and gives us far fewer tools to control people than the webinars that we do with Zoom. So on this very same topic, I was horrified. In fact, Debbie and much of the committee was horrified the other night when we used WebEx. It didn't work particularly well, but again, it's totally vulnerable to being bombed by, bad actors. So I think what we have to do is, if necessary, get yet another Zoom account and give up on the WebEx. And I'm not sure, but I have a feeling others are not thrilled with WebEx either. Thank you.
All right, Ozzy, I think you were raising your hand.
Yeah, I was in relation to what Liz was saying. So since the board decided to work with the new Facebook after all and not try to rework the old Facebook, I stopped posting there. And I think I'm not posting there since the last time we spoke about that. And maybe that's also a contributor to the fact that you got fewer people. So take that into consideration, and that could be part of why you don't get as many people from the public.
All right. Moving along, Gerald, your report.
Yeah, I have.
I have my hand raised.
I don't see it, but yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, it's up there. I just wanted to back up what was said about the WebEx, because I had to leave the meeting, the traffic and transportation meeting. The echoing was giving me such a headache that I got a migraine headache, and I had to leave the meeting for that reason. I couldn't stay on any longer. I was feeling so sick. So that's, it's very poor. And I found that every time that I've been on one of those WebEx meetings.
Well, we're trying to open up as our own Zoom account. WebEx, believe it or not, is more secure than Zoom is for different purposes. But for our purposes, we're trying to secure another account that we own and we control.
It may be more secure, but if you can't understand what's going on and you have so much interference and it's on again, off again, what's the point?
Yeah, that's really the city's account that was given to us. We can use it as a secondary account. We had 2 meetings at once. So we're going to make it possible so that we have more of a user-friendly platform, which is Zoom. So we're handling that by next meeting. That'll be taken care of, Mary.
Thank you.
No problem. Gerard.
Greetings. I have less of an update than really just a wrap up, and it's going to be a little bit of a repeat of what I had said last month. So just to wrap things up, when I began my first term as treasurer, it created a basic Excel spreadsheet that the district manager could update each month to report fiscal year monthly actual and forecasted expenses, which would enable the treasurer to advise the board, what funds might be available to be repurposed throughout each fiscal year, should the board consider that as an option. This reporting is good practice, promotes transparency within the board and community, and enables the board leadership and community to understand spending throughout each fiscal year. My request was modest and would have built trust and confidence within the board and community if the report had been consistently issued in a timely manner each month by our district manager. Report's not overly complex, and then, truth be told, could have done it, but it really is good practice and best practice for any manager of any budget, whether it's modest or multi-million, to really own that and to really express it the way it should. So, as you know, I've declined to run for another term as treasurer, but want to thank the office staff for all their efforts in support of the board business. And I want to wish the next treasurer all the very best and encourage our district manager to support their efforts to the greatest extent possible. Thank you all.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. You're a good man, good friend. All right, the next report from the secretaries.
Okay, so I still don't get information for the committees from the office, even though I think Paola and Chanel divided like who is managing the attendance and is supposed to send it to me, I guess. So I just went ahead and looked at the general meetings from April to November. And I just go by that, and I can tell you that there are 4 or maybe 5 members that one of them did not attend any of the general meetings since April. Another one missed 4. I'm sorry, 5. The other one missed 4. I'm not sure if I can name names because we are not in the executive session, and Jim can chime in on this.
It's a matter of public record. You can name.
Exactly.
Okay,
Correct,
thank you.
Elizabeth.
I just need, thank you for the confirmation. I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to. Okay, so we have Francisco Alvarez did not attend any of the general meetings since April. Juan Guzman only attended 4, I'm sorry, did not attend 4 out of the 6. Cindy Matos did not attend 4. And Christopher Ventura did not attend 3, and they're all absent. It's not that they are excused. So my question is, should we approve sending an email, I'm sorry, an email or a letter, not sure which is it, to those members and asking them if they are, if they want to, to resign, or they feel they want to improve the attendance at some point? Hold on a second, Liz. Let me, it's my first time doing that. And this is only based on the general meetings. I do not know, and if they did not attend other committees, their assigned committees.
Alvarez has never been to one of my meetings.
Jim, you want to?
Was he assigned to your committee? I'm trying to understand. Steve, was he assigned to your committee?
Yes, yeah, and he's never attended one meeting.
He's assigned to public safety as well. He has never attended. I don't even know how he looks.
Okay.
Juan Guzman is been in all of, because I know he's a new appointment. He's been in all my business development committee meetings.
Is he assigned to your committee, Domingo?
Okay.
Yes.
Let me try and put some order into this. Catherine, you had your hands up, then Liz, and then we're gonna wrap up your report. And then Jim, I would like to have your opinion based on exactly and specifically what the bylaws says. Catherine.
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna say, tradition. I think it'd be good, and just to kind of sum it up, right, for Rosie and you to meet with Paola to decide, and you can see me on that email, just to kind of like decide that checklist of what that could look like, and finalize, what the process will be, because I know, folks have used the minutes to do the attendance. And so if that doesn't necessarily work, I do think that can be a conversation. And then I was going to say, instead of like punitive approaches, and I think Liz was going to chime in on that. Traditionally, folks get sent the letters as soon as they hit, based on the bylaws. If they miss, I think it was 2. And then after that, perhaps a phone call, right? And I think one of the best examples was, Francisco last year. That missed a lot, and then it was like, oh well, you just had a newborn and has been really active in all the meetings this year.
Different Francisco.
Yeah, sorry, different Francisco, not Alvarez. I forgot his last name now. But just as an example, there are folks that we called last year that have been really active, and it's just a matter of approaching them.
Right, but based on what I read to you in just for the general meetings, not including the committees, there are a few that I feel deserve to get a letter.
Okay,
I believe the next person to speak was Liz, and since she was the secretary, she should be able to tell us a great deal.
Yeah, Jim, let's have her say, and then I want you to wrap it up so we can move on.
So a couple of things. I think that it's always helpful to send out something to confirm that the record we have is the record. I think I think we have two different things going on. We've got some people who have some attendance issues, and there probably needs to be some outreach to them about what's going on. And we can do it by letter, or we can actually do it by picking up the phone. Ultimately, the bylaws do put that on the chair, but you don't necessarily want to just dump everything on Eleazar. So maybe you want to make phone calls to Eleazar, or maybe you want to delegate that back. But I think Francisco Alvarez is really in a different category than everybody else. The man has not attended a single meeting of any kind of Community Board 12 in the entirety of 2020.
2
And
years.
in the entirety of 2019,
2
he
years.
attended one meeting. We had never seen him in all of 2019, and then he showed up at the December meeting so he could vote, and we haven't seen him since. So I think the most charitable spin that we can put on that is he clearly doesn't have the time to do this. So we could do a whole back and forth with letters and registered mail or whatever, or it might not be a bad idea if you, the chair, Eleazar, pick up the phone, call him and say, you're really messing with our quorum. You got two different committee chairs who literally have no idea who you are. You clearly don't have time to do this. I'm happy to accept your resignation. But, there've got to be 10 people out there who are dying to get on CB12, and they can't because we have Francisco Alvarez taking up space on the roster.
Okay, great. We'll follow your advice on that one. Jim.
Thank you.
As Liz can attest, we already in the board office have standard letters that we send to people with bad attendance.
Right.
And I think we even have criteria, like it's 2 or 3 months and then they get a letter. And the other issue, which I think Liz described well, was this one individual who basically never shows up. What should have happened probably after 4 months of never showing up, before he got to vote in whenever it was, we should have sent him a letter. And then we have a standard letter like that saying,
We did.
Oh, we did. Okay, but then if he doesn't respond, then the next step is to remove him from the board.
Correct.
We had a resolution that the executive committee passed in January of 2020, and he was going to get such a letter. There were 3 letters that were supposed to go out, and for 2 of those, for one of those 3 people, Francisco Lopez, he started showing up. So we were like, great, you're showing up. He contributes, problem solved.
But
The
who
other 2
appointed
people
him?
we have not seen since then. That's
Yeah,
Marion
right.
James. So I think we should just pass those 2 resos because they've already been notified.
Yeah, I think we'll also discuss, and I will do that off record. I think that I haven't seen Marion Jones either. So
Right. Miriam James
James.
and Juan Guzman.
yeah, we'll
Juan Guzman, we didn't do a reso for. We have resos that the executive committee passed unanimously in January of this year for Mariam James and for Francisco Alvarez, who we haven't seen. So we could just take those 2 resolutions and put them on the floor in December.
Right,
Yeah.
but going back to
We got a number of hands up and we're not recognizing.
Right.
Okay, so Catherine, just help me out. All right, so before we move
Yeah.
on, because I really like to just bottom line it, and it's an easy answer. It's an easy answer. You just send the letters and move on.
Right.
Isidro, who was first?
No,
Wayne,
it was
Isidro, who was
Wayne.
first?
It was
So-
Wayne Domingo.
So to Catherine's question, her point, the attendance, the minutes are supposed to reflect the attendance sheets. And in our in-person meetings, we build the minutes based upon, the folks, the committee members who have signed in and guests who have signed in. In this virtual environment, it becomes critically important, and I believe, Eleazar, you're copied on the emails that I've been sending around recently, to get the attendance reports from those meetings. And, with Zoom, apparently it's easier to get those reports than with WebEx.
Yes.
Paola is saying that she can't find it, but I know at work, we use WebEx, and so you can get the attendance.
Right.
But, if we don't have those, we don't actually have the record of who actually signed into the meetings. So it's really important for whether to do it or whomever to give training to staff for whatever platform we're using so that we have an official record of attendance.
Yeah, before we spend so much time on just attendance, there's an issue, Wayne, with the email that we have on record for the board members, and sometimes board members sign in with a different email. So when you print out the report, you'll get an entirely different email address than the one that you have on record. So it might show up as though you're not present, but you are, especially when there has been some resolutions that have been voted on.
Right.
So
Well,
the report
that's not the problem I'm experiencing. But what you've mentioned is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And in some cases, we'll ask, and during the meeting, they'll say, well, the 718 number belongs to, actually, we had this with Rosie. So it was Rosie. So we knew she was there. With WebEx, to date, I have not been able to get a report for the people who attended the December 2nd land use meeting.
So what we did, we put in a call to the WebEx administrator in NYC so they can give us access to get those records in.
Yeah, that's my point.
That's what Paola did.
And that will address Catherine's, point of how do we track attendance? It should be based on the official, either the physical attendance sheet or the report we get from the platform of who was there.
May I make
Sidro?
a? Sorry.
Sidro?
So Juan did attend my meeting last night. He was recently appointed, so he has been attending.
Okay.
There's Domingo and Steve who haven't spoken yet.
I had Faye, who hasn't said anything all meeting. She texted me, and then Liz, Domingo, and that'll be all on this topic. Faye going once.
Okay, I didn't know it was first time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, speaking about the possibility of the proposal, we have to revise or amend, I should say, which is correct, the bylaws. I wanted to ask Verlin if what is the possibility that we also may consider the idea of revising members' duties as to what exactly they should ought to do. We have tons of members in different community, but I can only speak for my committee, in which members they not necessarily contribute to provide at least an item for the agenda, and those members in the future may want to aspire to be to certain position, whatever position. I think that the board should consider the idea and giving more responsibility to members, because sitting in a committee to have your name in a committee and do basically or practically anything, I don't think is really a healthy thing. Giving them responsibility, prepare them to become whatever position they want it to be, but not necessarily wait until the occasion comes. So now that we have this a possibility of this opportunity to to amend the bylaws, I highly urge Mr. James Berlin to consider something pertaining to that, because I personally feel that it's not really fair that chair have to do everything. Of course, at the end of the day, chair should revise and edit the minutes, but members need to be more committed to this particular duty. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Faye.
If I could
Steve,
respond to that.
Yeah, sure. But let me say, Steve, you may want to try and mute yourself. We're getting a lot of background noise from the.
It turns out
At some point, though, I had raised my hand when Gerard was giving his report. So when you can, please recognize me.
Yeah. Of course, I'm sorry about that.
so let me just respond to Faye. The reason we did this bylaw amendment is if we didn't do it, we couldn't vote. So now there are lots of changes we can make to the bylaws, and that's why at some point we will get a new bylaws task force, or there are probably other ways of amending the bylaws too. And the sorts of things that you are suggesting certainly can be put into the bylaws. It's not my job. It's the job of bylaws task force.
Okay.
And again, that's something for basically those details are something we also need to discuss, but again, not tonight. Thank you.
Do I have any more questions on the floor related to the secretary's report?
Thank you, James. Yeah, I have a quick suggestion, and it may sound like it's more work, but I think ultimately it might wind up being less work, particularly if we can just routinize it. So I would suggest that either the chair of a committee, or perhaps this is a good idea for the assistant chair of a committee, right after the meeting, is to send a quick email to the whole committee, CCing the staff, saying, this is what we think the attendance was for this evening. Is there anybody who was at this meeting who for some reason we don't have listed as being at the meeting because they dialed in or they were using an unrecognized email? Is there anybody who's listed as being unexcused absent from this meeting who should be excused absent? And then people will reply to that, and then that whole thing can just get forwarded to the chair of the committee, to the secretary, to the staff, so that there's a closed loop on here's who was at the meeting, here's who's excused, here's who's absent, and then there can just be real clarity, and not 5 months later when there's an email going out to check the attendance, people having to go, oh wait, was that when I was excused for some reason or traveling for business or whatever. And that way it's not totally on the office, it's not totally on the chair, and it also, as Faye points out, does help other members of the committee to grow into areas of responsibility and leadership so that the chair isn't doing all the work.
I have a suggestion that's simpler than that. Why don't we just, when we email the minutes, I'm assuming the attendance is there. Why don't we just send it out? CC the secretary.
I'm suggesting that we check the attendance before putting it in the minutes.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I didn't want Gerard's comments to go unacknowledged. I do at least want to publicly thank him for trying to set up a transparent system in which the board would keep track of its finances and let us know how much money we've spent and how much money might be available for reallocation. I think he made a good faith effort to do so, and I think we should at least acknowledge that and thank him for trying.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Good point. So we're going to move on to our.
Can I get the last word of my report, please? So whichever way you want to do the roll, I suggesting to do roll call in the beginning of every committee meeting. If it's not it, then what Lee suggests, fine. However, whichever way I can get it in, that will be great. But I just want to make sure that what we said is that we're sending 2 letters or doing 2 phone calls. Is it going to be, Eli, are you going to call those members?
No, I think I'm going to shoot you an email so that, as Liz perfectly said, not just one person has to carry all the load. I think we can collaborate, all of us, move on with Francisco Alvarez situation and just send out letters or calls, maybe calls, to Miriam, Juan, and whoever else mentioned.
Okay.
All right, we can work that
but
out.
like I said, Juan has been attending my meeting, so I'm not sure what.
Right, but he wasn't attending, from the general, he didn't attend 5 general meetings.
I would say call him. He's pretty responsive.
That's what we said.
Remember.
We're gonna give him a call. All right.
So
Ozzy, is there anything else?
it's Miriam and Francisco who are in the same boat. They're just like, we haven't seen them in a year. These other folks, they should definitely get called. But the 2 people that we have not seen in more than a year and for whom we already have resolutions that this committee has passed, I would strongly recommend that we just put those existing resolutions on the table, on the floor at our meeting on Tuesday.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, good. Ozzy?
Do we need to vote on that?
No, we already passed them.
Okay, I'm asking, I want that on
Okay.
record that I
So-
asked and you said no. Okay, fine. I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Jose, thank you. Since she misses the job. Moving along to our calendars, January 2021. Is there anything that you guys would like to change? By the way, I checked the Jewish holidays and we don't have any conflicts there.
Yeah, I think we can safely add your name as the chairperson of the board. I don't think there's going to be a recount or whatever, or any lawsuits. So I think we can trust that you're going to be the chair in January and February and even March.
I think is I guess it's ethical just to do it the way that it's supposed to be done, regardless.
What if
So-
he's abducted by aliens?
I already was once.
Oh, well, that explains a lot. Okay.
Oh, Steve, cheap shot, man. Oh, guys, you need more time to take a second look at the January 2021 calendar. Or
I
are we
have a
good?
quick question because I guess probably I haven't received the calendar. Is it because I'm not am I out? Is it because am I with the mini meeting?
Have you accidentally unsubscribed, or are you using a different email than the one that you first gave the office?
So the one that I first gave the office, it was a while ago, but I also told the office that I'm using a new one, strictly just for community board, which is Rosie MTB12@gmail.
You mind texting it? Mind texting it to me right now? You don't mind?
Yes, I can.
All right, thanks, Rose.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Has any conflicts? Before we move on to February 2021.
These calendars are going to be mailed out after our December board meeting, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so at that point, we can put your name on them.
Yes. Rosie MCB12@gmail.com, right? February 2021, going one, going twice.
Liz, can you put your hand down, son?
I would just say it should be the Youth and Education Committee, not Youth Education. There should be an ampersand or an and.
Youth and Education.
Youth and Education.
Are the times right? Some meetings are 7 p.m., some are 6:30. Do they correspond with the times that the chairs have said that the meetings were going to be held at? Is there any difference, anything that needs to be corrected, typos? No?
I'm gonna jump the gun and say I'm good for January, February, and March.
Need to go through the process. March 2021. Times, except maybe for youth, you're missing the I again.
The and.
So we're good. On the before I go on to the committee chat reports, I get a text from Debbie Bavian, whom those of you who don't know, she's having issues, family issues. So very, very close to her. I don't know if she's given me the freedom to share it with you guys, but she needs a lot of praying for us. So I just wanted to share with you guys that her mother's very, very, very ill. Just wanted to have you guys share it. So that's why she was not able to come today because of her mother's situation. Hey, Liz, you wanted to say something?
No, somebody's got a lot of background noise. I don't know if it's Richard, Steve, or Curtis.
Probably Curtis. I think you muted it already.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Faye, minutes of fame.
Excuse me?
Yeah, your report.
Oh, my report, okay. Well, yes, we have the, and thank you. We have two presentations. We have one presentation from the Amber Charter School. I think it was very interesting presentation. And we also have another presentation from one of the local community programs, International Creation, which is about music program. But on the charter school, which I found it very interesting, so they provide a series of information, starting with the mission that we all know, or I assume, I guess. But more important is that they definitely are planning to start their school year, and I think this is going to be their third branch in 215th Street, where used to be the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So originally I thought that they going to, that they bought the building, but I understood that they going to be, or they already are leasing the building. The actual school that was there, it's already gone. So they working on, the preparation just to come, next year. And what else should I tell you? So one of the things that they are looking, that they actually provide was that, which I found it also interesting, is that they are not providing a special education. I mean, they're not serving special education students. They don't have that kind of program, which is something so much needed in our community. What else should I tell you that they provided? Well, I guess that I'm not really, I can't really tell you in a very concise and precisely way among some of the information that they have provided. But I know that it was kind of challenging for many of the folks, especially when it comes to special education, and the fact that there are things that remains in limbo regarding, their coming into the community. I also understood that they have another presentation with the parking and traffic, committee. But other than that, I will say that we exactly not sure, especially in my case, that I grasp like the whole concept of and turn of having them coming into the community, and what is that the full agenda that they are really are considering for the students. But I think that there is still a lot of information that to be revealed in this respect. But main thing is that they not own the building, they lease the building, the president school already left. They're going to be serving a population of number of students. I don't recall exactly. I have not put the agenda. The minutes. So the number of students that they are trying to serve, it's not in my mind right now. But and yes, they are coming to the community. And as you know, that they used to be on 187th Street. A few years ago, but for some reason, I don't know, the deal, it didn't work for them. So that led for them to move to the Bronx, where they are stationed, and also in Harlem. And they always have an eyes in this district to serve this district, because I feel that they feel well connected to this community and wanted to serve this community. But I think that it's a whole lot to learn about Amber coming into 215th Street, and whether or not the building, they are leasing the building or they own the building. But what they express themselves is that they lease in this particular property. So on the other hand, we also introduced them to the International Creation, which is an organization that serves students that inclined to learn how to play guitars. So hopefully, I think that they both probably, they're going to be discussing whether or not they're going to bring or adopt that program, but that it's in limbo as we're speaking right now. So any other information is going to be revealed in our minutes. And that's it. This is my report.
Questions from the floor related to the presentation of Amber Charter School, or anything that someone needs to ask Faye? Ozzy, hands is up.
Yeah, so they're going to start with 300 students and they're planning to move up to 900 students. I'm not sure how this building going to fill 900 students.
Yeah.
They also are looking to use Isham Park. I don't know to what extent exactly, but my understanding that, I mean, like, I can't see how 900 students use Isham Park. It's not Central Park or anything that 900 students disappear. It's a very small park. So I would appreciate any further information about that.
Well, I think that's in a wishing list, because remember, they are projecting, but they are counting on the idea that they would be able to recruit that amount of students. So it's not something that it's already a fact. This is something that they are expecting. So for that, I say that it's still in their wishing list. Let's see that this to be determined later on. But this is what they are projecting. And of course, in such presentation, thing has to look very appealing coming to this district. Because I know many folks feel how, you know, the district feels about spaces, especially in that area, which is not a commercial area, very, I would say, residential. But the fact is that there was another school in there. So complaining maybe for folks that may be complaining and trying of delivering, dropping a student and things like that. Well, that's something already that was in existence. So
They only had 150 students when
but
the
I don't
seven
think that
Adventists.
900 student, well, maybe it will be, but for me personally, I take it as a wishing list.
Okay.
That was a 10.
So we have that new set of information provided by Ozzy, that is 900 people, and we have a preoccupation of all the students who use in the park at once. So that's something that we should keep in mind, Faye, for any future
But
presentation.
I want to also add last that is so far they've been successful in Harlan and Kingsbridge. You know, it makes me think that probably the services or the kind of services that they are projecting to provide in Washington High perhaps might be successful as well. But, you know, let's see what happens. But more to come is going to be in our minute, because I'm going to make sure that more details will be in the minutes, you know, in a very descriptive things. Or manner. So we work and follow up on the unfolding of that project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Faye, for keeping them honest. Ariel, next report on housing and human services.
I had a question for Faye.
Oh, who was that? Domingo?
Yeah. Faye, so thank you. My thing is understanding that you know how it is when schools don't offer IEP, especially for a community that has so many students that have been who need IEP services and other special education services.
Yes.
My biggest concern, and something I say to add to it, is usually in December all those kids usually get kicked out of these charter schools to attend public schools because schools will start saying they don't have the services. Are they bringing in students from all over the city? Because that's one of the trends that a lot of these charter schools have, is that they'll start like saturating these schools with students that are not necessarily from that direct community. So I think that like just recruitment strategy and also understanding that this district has a heavy population of students who have IEPs and are in special education. Are they even interested in incorporating that into their schools offerings?
Sorry, can you upgrade Maria Luna?
This is it's an executive committee, Ozzy.
So Domingo, I believe that they are willing to accept a student from every borough to begin with, as long as they can come up with that number. I also wanted to mention in that particular, topic about the special education, the IEP, individualized education, basically. So I mentioned the Dr. Acosta, who is basically one of the main figures in that school, is that I understand that this is one of the requirement by New York State that a school provides, the school provides students with how do you call it? School's supposed to have that kind of a system or that kind of program just crafted for a student with a special needs. But unfortunately, they say that they don't provide that. And I'm not sure about what I read in her expression. It's something that she probably not sure or she disagreed. But they're not providing that anyway.
Okay,
But
thanks.
it's required by New York State.
All righty. Thank you, Faye.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of quick points.
Go ahead.
Okay. Number one, I think for the record, we should note that when the Amber Charter School began in the 1990s, the intention was for it to be located and to serve Washington Heights, and then it moved elsewhere, expanded East Harlem and the Bronx. Faye, when you say that they're leasing the building, I think we should probably note that the money is actually coming out of the DOE budget, DOE is obligated to pay the rental for the charter schools unless they're being co-located in existing school buildings. And the last thing I want to say is that what I understand, what they said at the meeting is that they intend to use the park not just for recess, but also for sports activities, which the park is not suited for. And so I think this is a discussion that the Parks Department is going to have with them, because that's going to be a problem. But we can't, the lawns would not survive sustained activity by kids using it for sports, and let alone hundreds of kids maybe using it for recess. That was not the case with the Northeastern Academy. So that is a significant change.
Well, and one of the things that I didn't want to verbalize it, but I'm going just to say, since you brought up that issue, I'm thinking, and sometime when next year, we need to call up this to revise the conversation again to see exactly where they are, because most of the things that they say or the projection that they have in terms of the, the student recruitment and the programs and bringing them to the park and all that kind of stuff, I think all this remain in limbo to me. This is like a wishing of, but I don't think that that is a structural necessarily program that they have already, in place. I'm not sure. This is me and speculating. And I think that bringing a conversation perhaps between parks and the Youth and Education Committee and parking, that might be like three-way conversation. And, if we can unify the committees and start, preparing in advance exactly what is it that they are going to provide the community with, I think that would be an interesting conversation. So we can start on the floor, or we can, we can get organized to deliver to the community exactly what is it that they are going to provide the community with. What is the services with? Because right now, again, to me, it's a wishing list.
Okay. I think, and I'm a big advocate of having presentations on the general meeting, because I think we put so much of the workload on chairs when we don't assist to the committee, the local or individual presentation meetings, because then we have so many different questions that maybe the chair was not able to ask herself or himself. So I think it may warrant for another presentation, Faye, something that we might have to discuss later. I'm sure that they'll be willing to come back. I don't think they have an issue with coming back.
Allow me just to say this very last thing. Considering the situation in terms of the environment, the COVID and all this thing that is going on, we remain hopeful that things are going to change, hopefully in a positive manner by next year. But I think that might be an influential factor. What would be the, what is at the horizon, next year for that? How things are going to, are we going to be facing of the thing about the situation that we are living now? Things are going to be better or going to be worse? Because this all depends on that as well. So it's just, we have to wait to see exactly what is going to happen, because that's something that I'm really considering.
Alrighty, thank you. Ariel?
Hi, everyone.
We're gonna keep on track tonight. So I didn't want to just drop that, but I had to drop it. So 3 minutes.
Thanks. All right. So pretty much there were two issues that came before the committee this past month. One of those being DHS's involvement really with the oversight of space that was essentially taken from the Welfare and Development Services organization. Phil Zablocki, who is the attorney who's been working alongside them for quite some time, presented his findings from both the previous years as well as what's happened since then, adding into the information about the FOIL requests, Freedom of Information Act requests for information from the Department of Homeless Services, as well as the Parks Department. And then lastly, we had tried to start a conversation that was in relation to the shelter that's been brought up. We have not necessarily been receiving much information about this. And so I felt that it was probably more appropriate to try and wait until we could get in contact with the individuals that are supposed to be servicing this site. They have apparently chosen 3966 10th Avenue as this site. We have not heard anything at this time from DHS about this. We recently just received an email from a gentleman named Miguel, who is apparently going to be serving as the Director of Community Relations on behalf of the organization, which is called BRC, that is supposed to be operating at this site. And I've spoken to Eleazar about this already. We are working together to try and put forward a response. We are looking to try and work on getting a public, or rather a virtual town hall at this time, so that the community can really weigh in on their concerns, specifically being that it is right next to a school. It is underneath the tracks. We have not just received any information at this time, so we need to build out a relationship with the Department of Homeless Services. So that is my main goal. And if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer within the minute left.
What is it that would go? I don't understand. What would go to 3966 10th Avenue? What would be done there?
So there's a proposed shelter that we had pretty much just learned about. Miguel just sent his first email to both Eleazar and I to tell us that this was one of the this is something that's been ongoing for some time. They're actually in the middle of the purchasing process. To add to this, I should note they have apparently found out that the site formerly was a burial ground for those individuals that had been enslaved in our community years ago. So there's a lot to of course unpack, and I'm trying to do justice within our short time frame right here to discuss this. But I do want to offer individuals the opportunity to reach out to me. I do want to work with everyone on this matter.
I'd like to open the floor to a few questions. Liz, I see your hand up.
Thanks. We don't really have to do this here, but Ariel, I would love to have a conversation with you about some of the work that we did in the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee around memorializing the African American and Native American burial grounds, and just so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've got some information on that. I know the Borough President's Office included that in some of the asks of EDC around the inward rezoning. So there's just a lot of stuff, and probably most of it but just in case you don't have ready access to all that, I'm happy to just highlight it for you so you don't have to do work that's already been done.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Ariel, couldn't thank you enough. Great work. Liz?
Yes, thank you. Just going to start a timer for myself. So yes, as you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we had a wonderful ribbon cutting for the Adventure Playground in Highbridge Park at Amsterdam and 164th Street. It's beautiful. You should go. You don't have to be a child to enjoy it. I can attest to this because as you saw, I gave the slide a test run. It was a blast.
Yeah, we know.
The weekend before, I went to a wonderful cleanup event hosted by Yolanda Pineda and Conectémonos. They're the folks who are working to really reclaim for the community some abandoned DOE property behind G-Dubs at the curve of Fort George Hill. They're trying to turn it, hello, cutie pie. They're trying to turn it into a community garden, and they've gotten a lot of support from parks, from New York Restoration Project, and from the community at large. It's amazing. This afternoon, I went to the latest installation of the Audubon mural project, which this time, rather than being a mural, is a mosaic. It is, you should pardon the expression, a gorgeous mosaic. It's on the northwest corner of 163rd and Broadway. Definitely check it out. If anybody knows of any walls that would be good for painting this weekend with more birds from the Audubon mural project, hit me up, not now, offline, so that I can connect you with Avi, because he's got paint, he's got time, and the weather's going to be great this weekend. This weekend, there will be a bald eagle watch in Inwood Hill Parks. Meet Dykeman and Henshaw Saturday at 9 a.m. I encourage everybody who's interested in all of the things that are happening in various committees to please attend other people's committees and also read other committee minutes so that you can be briefed on what happened in meetings that you may have missed. At our last meeting on Tuesday, we had an incredible conversation around the renaming of Bennett Park. I encourage you to read the minutes when I have them available tomorrow. We're working towards building consensus around what it might be called, but quite interestingly, there were 0 people. We had 91 people at the meeting, and there were 0 people who opposed the idea of renaming Bennett Park, James Gordon Bennett having been an avowed racist secessionist who opposed Lincoln and opposed the Civil War. So look to see more in future meetings, and we'll have a reso in maybe January or February. And I'm out.
Liz, I think you meant to say, I think Liz meant to say that Adventure Playground is on Edgecombe Avenue.
I did. I said Amsterdam, didn't I? My bad. Edgecombe.
Any questions? No? Once, twice? Liz, thanks.
Thank you.
Wayne?
Oh, thank you, Eleazar. So we had 2 agenda items and some items of old business. The first item was actually a holdover from the prior meeting, and that was with Diego Roballo of the Historic Districts Council discussing the efforts HDC is undertaking to promote historic preservation from a cultural perspective in underrepresented communities. And that initiative, really was focused in the Bronx. And, based on the work that was done to engage community residents who typically were not focused on issues of historic preservation in the Bronx, they're looking to expand that initiative to Upper Manhattan as well. There is an event they are hosting on the 16th of this month, which HDC would like assistance getting the word out. I actually received an email from Diego today, and we'll share that with the office so they can help get the word out. Assemblyman Al Taylor was also in attendance at the land use meeting and also offered to get the word out there. And what's interesting is since September, I think each month we've dealt with some item that deals with preservation. So it is, I think, useful to have an organization that's HDC that's working to get community residents who typically may not be in the loop on these issues involved. We then had a presentation by the Department of City Planning on a zoning text amendment focused on coastal flood resiliency. And you may recall that last year we dealt with not the text amendment per se, but the scoping for the EIS. So this is the actual zoning text amendment. We were a little miffed because the zoning text amendment went out for public comment in late October. And we only got a presentation this month, and the deadline for comment is the 28th of this month. However, you know, we were told that the chair of city planning will continue to accept comments in January, and we said the best that we can do is to have land use pass a resolution at its January meeting, and perhaps to have the exec committee, you know, vote on it at that time. It's simply ridiculous that, you know, a month passed before they touched base with us to do a presentation. We also got an update on 857 Riverside Drive, and you know there continue to be issues with both the building department. Once again, Al Taylor has taken the bull by the horn and is approaching the mayor's office with some of the issues pertaining to the landmark designation that LPC has rejected out of hand, but rejected out of hand, you know, in everyone's opinion, without giving the matter any serious consideration. And that's it for me.
Pretty good. The floor is open for questions to the presentation of our friend Wayne Benjamin. Your presentations are so great that no one ever sags anything.
Well, I won't exactly say that, but you know.
This is Steve Simon.
Yeah, the health department data released today shows increasing positivity rates in 3 of our 4 zip codes. Zip code 40 is at 6.30%. Zip code 32 is at 5.34. Zip code 33 at 5.08. Zip code 34 is at 5.46, but has actually declined since I gave a report a week ago at my committee meeting. But it's still, in all 4 zip codes are significantly above the citywide average, although they're not as high as some communities in other boroughs, which are over 10%. But this is the first time I've seen more than 100 positive cases in 2 of our zip codes, 32 and 33. Had 137 and 113 positive cases respectively, and we had 417 overall in our community, which is the highest number of positive cases that I can recall seeing, certainly since April at least. So the trend is not going in the right direction, and we need to be very careful in how we take care of ourselves. I personally got a test this morning at the District Health Center at 168th Street. It's very easy to get an appointment on the website. You can also get tested at the Highbridge Rec Center at Amsterdam and 173rd Street, and up at Nagel and Dyckman. Health and Hospitals also has a location there, and I'm told that the service at these other 2 locations is also very good. And I got a response right away today that I'm negative, so it no longer takes 4 or 5 days to get a response. At my committee meeting, we also had our annual presentation by the medical director of the HIV infectious disease clinic at the hospital. I think the most important thing he told us is that his clinic patients had 22 deaths in the last 9 months, which is significantly higher than what they've experienced in the past. And he's going to come back in the next 3 to 6 months to give us a longer presentation on how the hospital is dealing with this issue. The fireworks resolution that I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm still working on, and I hope to have it ready to give to the pass on to the Public Safety Committee for its meeting in January. The Corner Project has informed me that they're putting a hold on their application to place the 5 trailers on Amsterdam Avenue. They're revising their plans, and they will be back in touch with me when they're ready to do a public hearing at some point, I guess early next year, maybe. And finally, I just want to mention that I'm trying to arrange for DEP to do a presentation at my January meeting of the inward drainage plan, which they were obligated to devise in response to the inward rezoning.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Steve, do you
Me
feel
too.
that
I have a question too.
do you feel that there's a direct correlation between the increase in numbers with the accessibility of testing now? Because it seems like there's a lot of different testing sites throughout the entire community. Yeah, what do you think?
I have a question.
Well, I mean, it could very well be that the raw numbers are increasing, but what you have to be concerned about is the positivity rate. And so the fact that our positivity rate is going up is jumping up by percentage points. I think that's an issue. So and I don't know that that's a result necessarily of having more testing sites. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. All I can do is look at the numbers.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Faye.
Thank you. Steve, help me to understand something that I have not been able to comprehend, but it's bugging me to no end. So how exactly they can predict a particular zip code that is going to be this huge amount of COVID, presence? For example, my zip code has been one of those that has been already forecast that is going to have the highest rate of this pandemic. So help me to understand this, because I really feel that, I don't know, how they can predict this.
Well, Faye, these are not predictions. This is data based on what I just read off is data based on the 7-day period between December the 1st and December the 7th. So it's not a prediction. It's based on the actual testing that's taken place during that 7-day period. A week ago, our worst zip code was 34. This week, our worst zip code is 40. So it's there is some fluctuation, but these are not predictions.
No, but allow me to say this. Before they came up with this result, they were saying in advance, because I heard it, I read it, that zip code 33, 40, and so forth are going to be highly impacted. That's in the future. So now is the present, and exactly you just reporting on that. So how they could say that they were able to say that, in advance?
Well, I think I have not seen that. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, if they said something like that, it would have been based, I assume, on the trend. As they were looking at going back several weeks and whatever, they were probably looking at the trends, and the trends in our zip codes have been going up from week to week. I'm looking right now at early November. Zip code 34, for instance, was at 1.86%. Today it's at 3 times that, at 5.46%. So they're probably looking at trends, and the trends in basically in all of our zip codes, except for this slight fluctuation for zip code 34. They've been increasing in each reporting period.
Thank you, Steve, but I think I need an airplane to help me land it to this. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
No.
Mary Anderson. Dear Mary.
Yes.
Thank you,
Hello,
Steve. Thank you very, very much.
Our meeting on the 3rd of December last week, Thursday, was we were supposed to have a presentation from Carmen De La Rosa, which unfortunately could not happen. She was unable to attend. So we have her rescheduled for our January meeting, which will be January 7th at 10:30 in the morning. What we're trying to encourage is that the senior center directors try to reach out to their clients to join this meeting, even if it's by phone, so that they can listen at least to the presentation. We're trying to reach out and see, you know, how we can get the seniors in the community involved. They don't want tablets because they don't know how to use them. And it's difficult for them to learn how to use them. And some of them don't have Wi-Fi available. So, you know, it all just a cycle. But, you know, we're trying our best to figure out how to get them involved. There was also a lot of discussion about the vaccine and how the aging committee can be involved with the hospitals and nursing homes and the community, including the possibility as time goes on of tabling and, you know, assisting at the, doing what we can, you know, flyers, assisting at the locations where they will be giving out the vaccines. Probably we'll be in touch, we'll be working together with the Health and Environment Committee to be able to do something of that nature in the future when it begins to happen. Talked a bit about the senior centers. There was supposed to be an RFP that was supposed to be put out today by DIFTA. It did not happen. So there's no prediction of when they're going to be open, not necessarily open their doors to clients, but to be able to provide even grab and go meals or anything like that. There's nothing happening of that nature now. All of the interventions that are being done is through phone calls with their clients, and everybody on staff in each of the senior centers is making numerous phone calls every day to reach out and to help them as needed. That's about it. Thank you.
I have one. Mary, how's Thurn Center doing? Is it open, partially open? How are they functioning?
They're functioning by telephone.
By telephone.
One of the senior centers is having clients, if they need to apply for benefits, and if they can, they come to the center, but the social worker meets them outside. They cannot come into the facility.
Oh, gosh. How are the seniors getting lunch?
Through the city. They've all been, you know, everyone that's able, or, you know, that needs the food or wants the food, they are referred to the city, you know, Meals on Wheels kind of thing. And they all are provided food if they need it.
Okay, it's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, our next, Debbie, as I've already reported a little while ago, she's not going to be able to make it today. So, Curtis.
Can I just say one very quick thing for traffic and transportation? I did speak with Debbie. One of the things that's a spillover from the possibility of renaming Bennett Park is also a discussion about renaming Bennett Avenue. So there was a brief discussion of that at the Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. And when I had spoken with Debbie, she said that since Parks and Cultural Affairs is already having really robust conversation about that, they're gonna take a look at what's happening in that conversation and then see what, if anything, should be happening through Traffic and Transportation, rather than having one conversation in two different places.
Thanks for the update. Curtis.
All right, thank you all. This past month, we had a very productive meeting. I'll start with the future and then I'll work my way backwards. So our next meeting in January, we're hoping to have a representative from the FDNY to come in and present on the inoperable fire hydrant issue that we've been discussing at our committee for the past few months, getting a better assessment on what's operable, what's not operable, what what that situation is with the FDNY. We reached out, one of my community members, she reached out and we discovered that there's been a staffing change with one of our local FDNY community affairs person. I did share that name and email address with the office to be added to our mailing list, so they are no longer absent from our meetings. We are also hoping to discuss at our January meeting the joint resolution with Steve's committee on the firework mitigation plan. That's going to be a joint reso. And last but not least, we are in preliminary discussions on having a forum or many different discussions for the past few over the next few months on our priorities for the Public Safety Committee. And one of the big priorities for me personally is to have a panel or hearing or public meeting on the idea of what it means to redefine public safety. It's been something we've discussed for several months now at our committee, and we've been tackling a lot of those issues involving the redefinition of what it means to be a public safety committee. So I'm hoping that we can further those conversations along and start organizing a public meeting for the month of February that will be composed of community leaders and advocates, not elected officials, community activists, and other representatives who can come and speak and share their ideas on what it means to reimagine and redefine public safety. In my mind, I imagine also maybe collaborating with maybe education committee, maybe housing committee, health committee, because so much of redefining public safety involves so many more committees than just the public safety committee. So that's that. We also had a very vibrant discussion on the Less is More campaign, which is a legislative effort to remove technical parole violations from the from our state legislative policy. And we passed a resolution that we are going to be presenting to the board next week on that legislative change and effort. And that concludes my report.
Brother, Joe.
I hear you.
Steve had a question.
Yeah, let me, Curtis, let me just say that I also want to work with you on the fire hydrant issue. The FDNY uses the fire hydrants and checks on their status, but they have to be repaired by DEP. So to the extent that you get a report about how many fire hydrants are out of service, let's work on getting DEP to repair them.
Okay, well, certainly. I'll share what they sent me so far.
Okay, and my second question is, what is it that you're wearing?
This is a floral hoodie, Steve. Florals for winter. I'm trying to make florals popular, and in the winter.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, I believe in flowers.
Is your what are you, a medium or small? Send him one.
I'm not going to answer that question publicly.
Okay, so Domingo, I believe you're next on the agenda.
Yeah, so we had a pretty good presentation from UMass, the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. Blair just went on, provided us with some resources or a program that his organization is offering. We are basically planning for January to have our stakeholders roundtable. One of the concerns that was constantly raised by a lot of the small businesses that came to our committee was this communication pipeline. So it was always difficult. By the time they got the information, it was either too late or there was erroneous information shared. So we want to partner up with local organizations to make sure that the messaging is correct, but also start developing communication pipelines amongst the various organizations working with small businesses. And yeah, we'll be presenting on that. And that was our monthly meeting.
Yeah. Any? Would you like to expand on the microloan rollout, and if there's any follow-up meetings, and how do you plan on
Yeah, so basically, I had a follow-up meeting with Blair, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago. It's just a matter, like I said again, of thinking about key stakeholders and developing a strategic marketing plan so that we could be able to reach out to as many businesses as possible. And just making sure that there's communications amongst the various organizations that are providing support to a lot of the small businesses, but we just need to be able to increase the effort of communication so that everybody is able to be helped during these turbulent times.
Okay, great. Any questions? No? Isidro Medina, licensing.
So we met this past Wednesday, yesterday, as a matter of fact. We had 12 licenses. Only one was a full liquor license. And that one in particular was a revisit. Apparently they missed on the date to submit it, that resolution that was passed by the community board some time ago. So they had to resubmit once again. So they came on board and it was approved. After that, there were only 3 other wine and beer licenses, nothing complicated. We had a great meeting, very grateful for the team. So there was nothing major at all. We do have 2 lieutenants reported to the license committee. One is Lieutenant Tavares from the 34th precinct, he's new. And also Lieutenant Zambrano from the 33rd precinct is also new. So we had a great meeting, and that's basically it. We share the minutes, which I will have to write, and the resolutions. I will have to work on that overnight. So I'll get it on. You'll see it on the report at the general board meeting. That's basically it.
Well, if you were bored, you're gonna have something to have fun with.
Call me if you need help.
Questions?
Thank you, Yossi.
Questions? No. Okay, so on our next report, we're gonna have.
Steve has a question.
Yeah, for Isidro, do you know whether the Chipotle that just opened up at Broadway and 157th Street, did it get a liquor license? You know, we voted against it. Did they get a liquor license?
I'm not sure if they got a beer and wine license. Will not be a full liquor license, but I'm not sure to answer that question.
And the one that's been in the press lately about all the rats at 168, 169th Street, does it have a liquor license?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I have not been there.
Not on 168th. They don't have a liquor
The one on 157 does not have a liquor license yet either. I went there a few days ago.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, but do they have rats like the one on 168th Street?
Not yet, hopefully.
Move along.
Did you see that article?
Yeah. Yay. On our next report, what we are going to have is to have Nobles Crawford, our wonderfully, I can't even describe Nobles, but he's going to talk to us about the nomination, the elections, and mainly, Nobles, I'm going to open up the floor for you to take over on the platform that we are going to use for the elections, which is, I think, is critical that he gives us 3 minutes of his time. He was with his family, and he took the time to be here tonight. So, Nobles, floor is yours.
Sweet, thanks. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm just going to explain technically, because I know y'all voted on the amendment tonight. Thank you very much for passing it. I'm just going to explain technically what the virtual system will be like, which will be tailored to the easiest, lowest common denominator type of technological engagement I can possibly make it. So low barriers of entry. But I will be emailing out a guide to what we're going to be like using, and then also alternative ways of voting within like the time period of voting, just to make sure folks have options, and we just get that out front immediately. Obviously, contact information will be in there. They can reach out to myself or Jonathan, who will be working with me on this. And maybe we can answer questions before we even get into the vote, so we know what to expect, first and foremost. But for you guys tonight, I do want to explain the virtual voting system, because I know there's been questions of, is it Upvote or is it going to be SurveyMonkey? And if you probably remember, I mentioned something during the last general meeting where we found that there was like I'm not gonna say a glitch in Upvote, but it's not. It's an option that prevents us from allowing people to vote for multiple people, and so we had to find an alternative. And we do have one. It's SurveyMonkey. I was talking with Jim earlier in the process, and it doesn't seem like there's anything against using SurveyMonkey, especially now that we have the amendment that you guys just passed. I'm pretty sure a lot of folks are familiar with that platform, so at least there's that going for us, which is good. But on it, it allows us to do the vote the way we need to, where it's only one vote for one person when there's multiple people for a position. It is accessed by link, but here's the thing. The challenge that we're going to have, and I guess we found this out the last time we did an election, which is for Rosie for assistant secretary, is that some people don't have the proper email registered with the office. And so if you guys saw in my note about voting that went out a couple of days ago, and thank you for your patience on that. It was just a lot getting out, but it's out. I haven't read on there to please check your email with the office to make sure we have your current email. That's going to be important. So it would help me if you guys were to spread that word. Just have people check in with the office, be like, hey, is this the email you have on file? And if it's not, with Paola and Ebenezer, and if it's not, we can change it. Because that's going to be the email we're going to use to email out the link to the voting system. Now, addressing the conversation of transparency when it comes to the knowing who voted for whom, I'm still working on that. There are solutions to it. There's a few different options, but I do want to talk to Jonathan a little bit more. So I don't have a report for you guys on that, but rest assured it will be in the email for the guide, and I will address that there. So give me a little bit of patience there. But when it comes to tallying and verification, making sure that it's the person's ballot, there are checks in that. There's a mandatory field where you do have to enter your name before you can vote. So that will certainly be tallied. Now, when it comes to the process of the nominating committee and how we're going to do a breakout room in Zoom, I'm still confirming that technology, but I'm pretty sure we have it because of the level of Zoom we have. The nominating committee will break out into a different room on Zoom. If anything, we'll just use a different link.
All right.
And then that's where we're going to tally the votes. Oh,
okay,
shoot, I'm sorry. I'm way over time. I'm sorry,
because I know you're not looking at the screen. I know you're not looking at the screen, so that's why I had to cut you short. Any questions before we move on to Richard Ullman and then call it a day?
Yeah.
I want to be thorough as possible.
Okay, so Isidro, I have my hand up, but I can't raise it, and then Wayne.
Okay.
So great job, Novus. Very proud of the work that you and your team have done. I think that I'm looking forward to see you working at different levels in this community board. I do want to say a word about diversity. We should have a diversity of gender, race, and ideas on this community board at the leadership level. I will hope that we think and take that into consideration when we vote for different members in the community. The better diversified that we will be as a community, we will work much better together. So I hope that you do take that into consideration, because we have moved away from some difficult issues. We have dealt with those issues, but we should also improve on how we integrate this executive committee within the community board. Thank you, Novus.
Thank you so much for those words, Isidro. Absolutely first class.
Yeah. So shifting completely, when you send out the link, the question is, does the community board office intend to send out a test email with the link to ensure that it gets to everyone? And in my case, anytime there's a message that comes to me from a brand new email address, it automatically goes to my spam filter. And I have to go to the spam filter, find that message and add it to my contacts, which means the subsequent email will go directly to my inbox. So if there is a test email that's sent prior to when we're going to have to use it in the meeting, that will give me time and probably others time to actually set up our system so that when it's ready to go, it comes directly to us.
I absolutely love that suggestion. Let's do this. In order to do that, we'd have to put a time limit on when people can get us the email that they use. So let's say we can get the word out. Either we do like an email out, or we text people, we talk to people, between the 18 of us on this call, and let them know to look out for an email from the office to verify their email. That gets checked like by Saturday or something. I'll send out the voting guide to that email that we have on system just to check. So if people didn't get the voting guide, which we'll probably find out just through the grapevine, of course, that means that their email isn't, that's like the second gate, right? And then the third gate's just gonna have to be the day of the election. So it's gonna be 3 checks, basically, 3 emails. And of course, on the election, it'll be like, did everyone receive the ballot? I'm gonna try to get the ballot out actually in the very beginning. So that way it'll give us time. If people didn't receive it, we can either verify that their email is actually in the system, or we can figure out if it's a technical difficulty, we have to go to one of the other options that we voted in the amendment for tonight. Does that sound like it would not leave people behind? But thank you for that suggestion.
Sorry, I wanted to add, I thought to make it easier, because the office routinely sends out, when folks get appointed, the board directory. So you can get the latest one from Paola or Chanel. And I thought maybe in the guide, just a suggestion that we can plug in all of the emails that are already registered, because we all get the directory anyway with folks' numbers and address and all that. But this time, just putting their name and their email. And when they get the guide, having them, that is the record that they were sent and informed. And then obviously if that's not the email they're using, then we can edit that. And I say that just because in the past, we every month we've kind of reiterate to folks, and because you have limited time, I thought, maybe that's just one way. And then the other thing I would just say to be mindful around, and this is really a Jim thing, the ballots have to get handed out when we're technically in executive session when the nominations start, right? No? Also,
The whole
they
thing
can
is
be sent.
the whole thing is public, except that the voting itself will be via the app, so people won't find out who voted for whom until the next morning. But
No,
everything else is public.
No. I'm what I'm saying is in terms of if it gets sent at the beginning of the meeting, right? Like right when we have quorum versus, so we would have to wait till we have quorum.
I believe I covered that and Nobles wasn't here, so it's good that you brought it up. The actual links to the voting system can only be sent out once we take attendance when the voting begins, because we can only send the links to the people who are in attendance at the meeting at that time. Now you can send out test emails and stuff to make sure you have the right email, but the actual links can only go out to the people who are entitled to vote, and they have to be present at the meeting electronically at the time the vote begins.
All right, so somebody's gonna have to go. Somebody's gonna have to go through the list then and pull the ones of people who are absent.
Yeah, well, we could do this by just taking attendance with OC at the very beginning, and we can email it out like literally seconds after we have it, a roll call.
And we can also take the attendance from the sign-ins from Zoom, the printout list. I just
also
that. All right, so it's important that we update, and that's something that we should send an email, Nobles, as a suggestion. The people update their emails that the office has on the database. Is critical.
Oh yeah, that's what there's definitely a system for that. This is the one that I explained to Wayne, but I just want to go back to one thing that Catherine said, because it was really interesting. Catherine, is there a way that I can get a list of the people that voted up a vote for Rosie's assistant, for the special election for assistant secretary? Because then I can see folks that, that is the verification of their email. And I can figure out who are the other 50 don't have it, and then check in through that.
Ebenezer can send you that tomorrow morning. Catherine doesn't have a copy of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Cool.
I had a question. I think that you can use the same email that Paola is sending all the members to log into this meeting, to the general meeting, I mean to say. That may be one indication. The other thing about the roll call, I don't think, and Jim, you can correct me, I don't think it's going to be right for me to do the first roll call just to see that is related to the election.
We can do roll calls whenever we want.
No,
essentially.
me to do it. I don't think it's right for me to do the roll call for the election.
That's basically administrative and I mean, that we can figure out, but on some level, it doesn't matter who does it because we'll get one roll call and then we'll use it. But again, the final roll call has to be done right before we send out the links to the voting platform.
I don't see a conflict if OC is doing the roll call.
I don't
I'm
Okay,
also
so
happy
this
to
is-
help eyeball the
Yeah.
panelist list to make sure like who's actually still in the meeting, if that's useful to have another set of eyes. But can we please move this agenda? Because this is kind of committee work and staff work.
All right.
Cool.
So, Nobles, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing it up to date. Mr. Ullman,
No
do you have
problem.
anything to report? Richard? Richard Ullman, can you unmute yourself? There
Not
you
at this time.
Okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Richard.
Oh, I unmuted. I thought I was heard. There is no report at this time.
Okay, great. So that's our meeting. And before we go, because I know that some of us are anxious to go and do other things, to our request, Columbia University has agreed to send Dr. David Ho. Dr. Ho is the Time Magazine Person of the Year 1996. And he is a person who developed the HIV cocktail to help to deal with HIV. Okay, so he's going to be in their general meeting and he's going to talk to us about an article that came out on July 23rd, 2020, of course, related to how COVID can be treated from the same people who are exposed to the disease and the vaccine itself. So Dr. Ho is going to be probably a presentation 10 to 15 minutes with a Q&A as well. So if you guys have any questions that you'd like to send in prior to, or maybe research him, I will be more than happy to do so that he be prepared to answer as many questions that we have. Liz?
I love the idea. Thank you so much of not only having him as a presenter, but also inviting inviting board members to send their questions in advance so he can roll them into his presentation. I would respectfully request that we not have a Q&A afterwards, that we provide or have a very brief Q&A designed so that the whole presentation is 15 minutes, because it's a fascinating subject and we could totally have a 2-hour meeting on just that. But we have a whole meeting and a bunch of rezos and an election that's going to be cumbersome and time consuming. So I would really love to not have, to have his presentation be 12 minutes long, 2 questions, or 15 minutes and no questions. And yeah.
Good suggestions. I'll reach out to CUMCC, get them to give us the title of what the specific title of the presentation, and have them give us an contact email or some email that we can send our questions.
But members of the public shouldn't be sending questions to him in advance. We should gather that from the board, tomorrow and Monday, and send it to him so he can roll it in.
Great.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything else to add to this extremely timed meeting that we just had? No?
Motion to
It's very impressive to have him as a speaker.
A motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Second.
Great night. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.